So, guys, I don't know. Lord have mercy. Do we have a catastrophic situation coming out of Russia right now? We have, I'll start with the refineries, but I've never covered this many catastrophic situations out of Russia and its economy in one shot as I'm about to do right now. I think by the end of the video, you're probably going to honestly feel a little sorry for the Russians. No, you won't. But if you're here, you're definitely not going to be feeling sorry for any Russians. I'll start with the refineries. Russian refineries continue to explode at an unprecedented rate now in Yaroslavl, north of Moscow, 800 kilometers from Ukraine. This particular refinery is the fifth largest in Putin's hellscape, producing a wide variety of petrochemicals and diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, everything. An absolutely huge refinery. It's just north of Moscow, 800 kilometers from Ukraine. Ukraine no longer inhibited by, I don't know if Russia has air defenses anymore, but this is getting to be a bit outrageous, and I can't believe Russians aren't in the street demanding for their air defenses to be pulled back, because they're about to have a serious situation here. Here's another angle from the same refinery. Read what I wrote. Russians continue flooding social media with their gasoline catastrophe, and it's actually illegal now in whole regions of Russia to post photos or videos of burning Russian oil infrastructure. There's actually a structured fine. So if you the first offense is so many rubles, the second offense, third offense, for the recidivist crowd, just in case you just have no control, you cannot stop posting photos and videos of burning Russian oil infrastructure. They have special laws catered just for you. Local media. So Russia's spiraling fuel crisis has spread to the Orenburg region, with mainstream Russian media doing their best to calm the population. And so it's becoming sort of like a spectator sport in regions of Russia. Now, this is the Orenburg region. They were thus far sort of unaffected by the fuel crisis, but no longer. People are just driving around and making videos of, the ones that aren't filming the Russian oil infrastructure that's on fire have taken to their cars and are filming the gasoline lines until it's them that no longer have fuel, and it becomes a whole nother video, doesn't it? Yep, things are just getting worse and worse. And here's the local media report. It's basically just Russians interviewing other Russians waiting in line, lamenting the catastrophic fuel crisis in which they find themselves, with never a mention of why, and never a mention that it's because of their refineries being targeted by Ukrainian drones. People are waiting. In this video, I watched it earlier. I won't subject you to the whole thing, but people are waiting from 4 a.m., sitting in lines waiting to buy gasoline. I don't know, it's just Russian media. And really, they're just toning it down to manage the population. And never once in any of these news reports do they say, yeah, Ukraine just blew up another refinery and they're probably going to blow up like 3 more tonight. That's never mentioned, and it's so funny. It's just getting funnier and funny how reality, like at some point there's going to be such a divergence between the reality on the ground and the news reports. There just will be no gasoline. Russia's fuel union pleads with the Kremlin to urgently fix the gasoline situation as wholesale prices now exceed retail prices. Shortages now causing waits of up to 2.5 months to get delivery. So what happened is the Russian government has mandated that gasoline station owners are not allowed to raise the prices more than, it's like 1 percentage point above the official Russian central bank mandated or posted inflation rate, which is absolute BS. And so now you're getting this USSR situation where the owners can maybe buy gasoline if they could get it. It takes 2.5 months to get it. But they can buy gasoline, but then they have to sell it for far less than what they bought it. And I'll let you see the article here. And it's this is mainstream Russian news. So the average Russian is now seeing what is going on, which is a big difference from just a week ago. This is Kommersant. This is mainstream Russian media here. The fuel union warned of the threat of closure of some gas stations due to unprofitability. Gasoline station profitability in Russia is currently negative, according to the Russian fuel union. According to the union, several independent gas stations, they're referring to gas station chains, have already been forced to close. The fuel union cited these figures in a letter to the Deputy Prime Minister, Alexander Novak, sent on September 30th. That's just yesterday. RTS explains that due to reduced production and reduced exchange sales of gasoline, wholesale prices have risen, catching up with retail prices, in some regions even exceeding them. So what I was saying a minute ago is that they can buy gasoline, but then if they sell that gasoline, they will lose money selling that gasoline, which is the most USSR solution. I mean, the Russian government now is saying that, you're not allowed to sell your gasoline at a profit and mandating really that you have to sell it at a loss. Imagine you have 100 gas stations, and across a few regions, and this is now your business model. These factors are leading to a drain on working capital and an increase in the debt burden. And nowhere in this article does it say that, hey, if we just leave Ukraine, Ukraine will stop destroying our refineries and everyone can get back to broing down, making all sorts of cash. Nowhere in the Russian media reports, nowhere in these unions that are begging the government to fix the situation. Nowhere does it mention anything about Ukraine. It's incredible, right? The Russian government refuses to relax fuel prices and harshly punishes private stations. Meanwhile, wholesale prices have skyrocketed, and private gas stations have begun closing en masse. Here's an example from the Khabarovsk Krai. Out of 9, only 1 is open. Lines from 4 a.m. That's another mention of 4 a.m. Yeah, people are just waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get in line to sit all day and get some gasoline. And soon that's not even going to be available. I mean, how long are these station owners going to be willing to lose money? And then what, the government will bail them out with what money? And this is after that 2 days ago, the Russian government went ahead and got rid of some of the import duties in preparation to start importing gasoline. Yes, Russia used to be, John McCain famously said that, Russia is essentially a gas station. They're no longer a gas station. They're now going to be importing gas. Russia to import gasoline from Asia as drone hits cripple refineries. This is from oilprice.com. They're allowed to say that it's because of oil of Ukraine striking oil refineries, but nowhere in Russian media will you see a mention of connecting those two. You'll never ever see that. I could read you the whole article, but it's basically what I just told you. They're going to be importing gas now. Russia is going to be importing gas, and it's I know, it's incredible. And let's talk about OPEC now. OPEC, since the month of April, OPEC has been. It's just coming from all angles now. It's crazy. See, OPEC wants this market share, and as sanctions begin to hit and it becomes more difficult for even Russia's friends to buy and sell Russian oil, the Saudis want this market share. Everyone wants this Russian market share, and so OPEC has slyly just been increasing production. It was 400 barrels per day in April, and then the same thing for May and June and July, and every month in between, and they've just announced another output hike for November. And it is just hitting Russia from all angles. And it's not only oil. I just like to remind you that back in July, an article from July 7th, which I did cover back then, Russia becomes net food importer as economy falters under war strain. Everything is falling apart. There's no element of the Russian economy that is not completely in shambles, and I'm not leaving out the defense industry. It's everything. For the first time, this is just. I'll just read you a segment from this article a few months ago. For the first time in years, Russia has officially become a net importer of food and agricultural products, a stunning reversal for a country that once boasted of self-sufficiency and export dominance in grain and oils. So Russia's no longer the gas station of the world. It's no longer the breadbasket of the world. It's basically an exporter of terrorism and building North Korean weapons factories. That's really all Russia is at this point. So you say, well, at least they can continue selling this oil and, for a good price. Oh my God, look at this. $71 just a week ago. And now we've got $64 a barrel on Brent. Yeah, you can't refer to all of this in its entirety as anything other than a perfect storm. This is just OPEC's only increasing production. The U.S. economy is slowing down, the engine of global growth. Oil, I don't know. I mean, I'm not an oil trader, but I would think that the price of oil is probably only going to get worse, and that is not any good news for Russia. Oh, and here was a bit from more from Russian news as they start to cover this. I'll just read you what I wrote here. A situation going off script all over Russia as mainstream news can no longer avoid covering the spiraling fuel situation. Thousands of gas station owners will be bankrupted. So this is a gas station owner, owns a chain of gas stations apparently, and he's on public news here. Not happy. And there's no subtitles. Basically, he's just complaining that everyone's going to be bankrupted. And, well, what can you do? What can you do, buddy? Nowhere will they mention anything about Ukraine or why they're in the predicament that they're in. It's just natural law. Things just sort of happened. Workers at Russia's largest, so as this continues to spiral out into the rest of the economy, workers at Russia's largest car manufacturer, Avtovaz, where car sales are down something like 40% in a year, covered that a couple of videos ago. Avtovaz are resigning en masse, with the company now forcing staff to agree to a much lower pay and hours as sales have dropped. And a quote from a worker here: "We used to earn 100 to 120,000. That's rubles. Now the maximum is 45 to 50,000." And then basically, I posted a picture of the document from the mainstream Russian news article, in which the workers are getting this slip of paper that they have to sign that brings down their hours by a huge margin, half to 70% or so. And Russians are complaining about it on social media. Not only that segment of the economy, it's Russian pawn shops. Russian pawn shops see a massive 42% increase in borrowing for the first half of 2025. Russians are selling everything they own. Pawn shops are seeing an increase in loans and the number of clients. In the first half of 2025, pawn shops demonstrated growth in both monetary and quantitative lending measures, so more customers and higher amounts. Their client base is also growing, largely due to an influx of borrowers from more regulated banks and microfinance organizations. What's happening is people can't go to banks anymore, so they're not only becoming poorer, they can't go to banks anymore because the Russian banks are stuck in a scam in which they can't really lend money. They're not issuing mortgages anymore or corporate loans or buying corporate bonds. They are now forced to buy government bonds. And what that's about is this, and I'll explain it in detail. Putin's new scam of forcing Russian banks to buy worthless Russian government bonds has now resulted in a 500% increase in bond issuance year over year. With banks now barely lending to the public, it's a direct looting of the economy and will leave the Russian banking sector sitting on worthless paper. And so here is the chart. The red line is 2025, the issuance of bonds, Russian government bonds. And you wonder, who the heck is buying Russian government bonds? I mean, they're basically backed by North Korean missiles slamming into, apartment buildings in Ukraine. It's not backed by, mortgages or anything that's substantial in any way. The Russian government, it issues a bond, it gets purchased, they then spend that money on war. War is artillery shells, war is missiles, war is, it's not even tanks anymore because it's really just what Shahed drones and paying soldiers. So this is 2025, the issuance of Russian government bonds. 2024 is the orange line. So as you can see, it's a little over 500% increase in the issuance of Russian government bonds. And you ask, who is buying Russian government bonds? It's not the Chinese central bank. It's not the Chinese at all. It's not people in Kyrgyzstan. It's not Russian citizens. What they're doing is they're forcing the commercial banks to buy Russian government bonds instead of issuing mortgages. So what's going to happen at the end of this, and you won't hear this on Bloomberg. I wish they would cover it. If you know somebody at Bloomberg, tell them to watch this. Just take a look at this chart. It's something that should be covered, is that banks are going to be sitting on mountains of worthless Russian government bonds, not mortgages, not corporate loans, not anything backed by income or, quarterly profit statements. This is going to be just it's a complete looting of the economy. You can't get a loan because the bank is buying North Korean missiles to slam into apartment buildings in Kyiv. This is what the Russian economy is now. Yeah. Anyway, and so it's not just that. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the existing delinquent mortgages. The volume of overdue mortgages continues to grow at a staggering rate. It's increasing 7% per month, 120% per year. I've covered this chart before, but each month it's absolutely parabolic now. Just take a look at this. You can ignore the numbers over to the right. That is a Russian government lie. If you believe that only 1.4% of loans of mortgages in Russia are delinquent, you were smoking the crack. Anyway, but look at the trajectory. The trajectory looks on target. Yeah, things are not going well. Here's Russians boasting that they've just taken out the power supply for Chernobyl, despite the nuclear catastrophe that it can cause for all Europe and Russia. This is the Russian mind. And then I go into some things I probably can't say on YouTube. Anyway, this is a video. Last night, the Russians demonstratively published this video, in which, I'll just say, I'll read you what Max wrote. The Russians published a video of drone strikes on an electrical substation in Slavutich, which left the town and the Chernobyl nuclear power plant without power. And they published this soon after the strikes from multiple angles. It's like a Hollywood production, right? And when I put it all in context, I think you'll come away with the same opinion that I have, that this is a coordinated effort, a media effort. Basically, the Chernobyl power plant has been safe for about 30 years due to its being enclosed in a giant sarcophagus that keeps the radiation from coming out. These are Russian drone strikes on the substation that supplies its power. And alone, this wouldn't be so unnerving. But, because maybe we can get some extra air defenses up there and protect from any more strikes. And I'm sure there's some backup power. But they did this, and then about an hour later, they posted this video. And, of course, Europeans are freaking out a bit because, really it can cause a massive catastrophe. But I'll give you one more piece of the puzzle here. Zelensky sounds alarm over unprecedented power outage at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. This is from a few days ago. Ukrainian president says Russian shelling is preventing work to restore links to grid and that one of the plant's diesel generators has failed. This is not the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. This is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in the south. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant is in the north. It's closed. And down south, they've got this one. And it's now being kept alive solely by Russian diesel generators, right? Which is, pretty insane as it is. Ukraine has offered to help many times, even to supply power for it. It's Russian-controlled. They have always denied Ukraine to have any sort of hand in it at all. And so those two pieces, and that's not the whole puzzle, okay? Now the third piece is what I read here. Yep, when the Russians roll out this idiot to scream doom unless we bow to Putin, we know things are desperate in the Kremlin. This is Leonid Rogozin. He was one of the, quote, Russian liberals that basically produces, they sort of wheel him out anytime they need someone that is believed to be legitimate by a certain portion of the academia in the West, Russian liberals, people that still sort of believe in the, that Navalny or Navalny's wife, they are not all about the same things, same exact things that Putin is about in terms of goals. Anyway, Leonid Rogozin, I'll read what he wrote here. If Wall Street Journal's report about Trump sanctioning long-range Ukrainian missile strikes on Russia is true, then the final phase of this war is more likely to be accompanied by humanitarian catastrophe, primarily in Ukraine, which the EU will ultimately have to deal with. He's talking about here, there have been Ukrainian attacks on Russian nuclear power stations as well as on Zaporizhia nuclear power station. So I don't think they have any red lines there any longer. To me, you take the first piece, which is Chernobyl, take the second piece, Zaporizhia, and now they're wheeling out all of their useful idiots. And you get the video of the strikes right after on the Chernobyl power station, supplying the electricity for the power station for the Chernobyl plant, and then you get Zaporizhia running now on diesel generators. This seems like a full press that it's a gangster's version, the poor man's version of the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is Putin saying that I am going to commit to a large-scale humanitarian catastrophe, the exact words that Rogozin just used, if I don't get what I want. And that's basically what Rogozin is saying here. And I'm sure that is exactly the message that the Kremlin is parlaying to Washington as we speak. These are always information operations. That's what I think is going on. Putin doesn't have the balls to do something like that because he will, in fact, lose his money. But I see it for what it is. Only 1.5% of Russians earn over $5,952 a month. That's 500,000 rubles. This is a chart that Russian propaganda network TASS put out yesterday comparing Russians' incomes to the rest of the world to make them feel better about their blinding poverty. I translated it, and I talked about another income level here. 68% of Russians now earn less than $1,190 per month, according to Russian media. This is the real state of the Russian economy. When you see Tucker Carlson going to Moscow and prancing around in a five-star hotel, that is like 0.1% of the population ever gets to experience that life. Even if you live in Moscow, you're not living in the two central rings of Moscow. You're living in some, horrendous hovel on the outskirts of Moscow. And those are the richer people in Russia. But it's good just to get some perspective on what Russia really is. And today, Putin sent out Orban with a new line. Russia is so weak, so let's allow them to do what they like and not worry about it. So Orban is constantly coming up with new angles in which to serve his Russian master. I'll let you see this for yourself. But this is a new one. This is a new angle. There, I'll go ahead and...
Real danger. Economic stagnation and losing competitiveness. This is the
Not Russia?
Not Russia. No, we are stronger than... So, okay, guys.
We're stronger than Russia.
Make some comparison.
Make some compromise.
Base your opinion on the facts. So we have more than 400 million people, yeah? Russia is 130-something. Look at the European GDP. It's like that. Russia is like that.
Right.
We spend altogether 20%.
So compromise with Russia. Give Putin what he wants. Let me retain my power. He has elections coming up in 200 days, by the way. And they are not looking good. This guy, Peter Magyar, is smoking him in the polls. He's up 20% more votes than Orban. And speaking of Orban, I wrote this today. You can actually, this was a comparison that a lawyer friend of mine did, comparing the Romanian economy and to Hungary. And Hungary has basically had a Russian-backed kleptocrat looting the country now for, I guess 15 years. You can actually pinpoint the exact moment that Viktor Orban began looting Hungary. Hungary was ahead of Romania in terms of economy. Then, like a Soviet vampire, the Russian-backed scum began selling the country's future for dreams of Moscow riches, which he now has. I mean, he collects zebras now. He has been in power long enough to where I did a video about it last week. Yeah, yes, Orban has zebras and ostriches. All the Yanukovych stuff, they all saw Scarface when they were teenagers, and now they just never shook it. Romania is now leaving Hungary in the dust, and you can see right where it is. I mean, like, I circled it on this chart. Orban came in right about here. And then, as you can see, they were both even. And then what happened? And then Orban started tipping the country over into what is now essentially a Soviet-like kleptocracy. Every major hotel chain, I mean, everything. He has basically an Uday Hussein sort of son that that rolls around in this set of Bugattis and Ferraris, rolls around Budapest. One's like purple, I mean. Anyway, and then look at Romania. Yes, that is what the people of Hungary are about to vote out, and the incoming Peter Magyar they are openly talking about prosecuting him in the EU because they probably won't get a normal trial. It's going to take them a while to get rid of all the Orban judges, so they want to prosecute him in the EU immediately upon Peter Magyar taking power. And I believe that he's going to flee to Moscow. Honestly, he wants to keep his money. He wants to sit in the same neighborhood as with Assad and Yanukovych. That's how this stuff always goes down. And this is sort of just a feel-good thing I posted here. And really, I mean, because look, you have to give this guy credit. I mean, I'll just read you what I wrote. Zelensky never fails to give us his evening address, no matter where he is or what he may be doing. And this is Zelensky coming out last night. He is on a train. Sometimes he's on a plane. And he comes out and he just busts like these 8-minute monologues and gives the entire country an update. This one was in English. It was directed to a foreign audience, but normally they're in Ukrainian and they're directed, to let people know sort of what's going on at the front and what's going on economically and with getting weapons shipments and all the things that people care about here in Ukraine. And on the propaganda front, we have this guy. Okay, I'll just read you what this is from Ukraine Stratcom. Rewriting the past is a primary aim of Russia's propaganda matrix. Now they begin floating the narrative that they never really intended to take Kyiv anyway, but can take Lisbon and everything in between. All this just as soon as they finish being bogged down outside Dobropilya. Right, the Russians have been trying to take several Ukrainian villages for a number of years, but first they're going to mosey on over to Portugal, right? So this is, from Vladivostok to Lisbon, right? So this guy. This guy's definitely going to be in The Hague. He's Putin's top propagandist now. The Margarita Simeon's probably out of action. We never had a goal of taking Kyiv. That is funny. That is a funny thing because this right behind me, this is the wing of a Russian MiG that was shot down. The pilot was hanging in the tree, and then the local territorial defense shot him between the eyes. As the villagers were, anyway, he pulled out a pistol. Like at first he begged the villagers. He said, "Look, please don't harm me. I won't hurt you." And then he went for a pistol, and then one of the territorial defense guys shot him. This was just outside Kyiv. This wing right here that you see behind me, this green thing. They absolutely intended on taking Kyiv, and they occupied a large portion of it for a little while, for about 6 weeks. And so for him to say they didn't plan to take Kyiv, that's pretty funny. We never had the goal of taking Kyiv. At least the Supreme never voiced it this way. And he's talking about Putin. I think we should go all the way to Lisbon. The issue is, with whom? There's 500 million of them and only 140 million of us. We can go all the way there, but how will we hold it? So, and what to do with it? Because, who wants Europe? Do we really need it? We don't really need Europe. And how do we get there? Anyway, this is for domestic consumption in Russia. This is for the Russians this is to sort of dress the wounds of the Russians that are waiting in fuel lines and seeing an increasingly catastrophic economic situation. And they're having a hard time managing this, and rightfully so. This is a spiraling situation. The Russian is driving to the pawn shop, to pawn Granny's jewels. And while he's on the way there, he runs out of gasoline. And he goes to the station. They don't have any gasoline. And then he turns on the Russian propaganda, and they're talking about taking Lisbon. Yeah, I don't know, guys. It's just getting worse and worse. So anyway, that's all I've got for you today. And let's hope for worse things, because anything bad for Russia is good for humanity, and we're just getting it in spades now. It's been an amazing past week. So okay, you guys, I'll catch you next time.